Morning, I'm Dave Canterbury with Self-Reliance Outfitters in the Pathfinder School. What I thought I'd do today is, we had a primitive trapping concepts class out here over the weekend, this past weekend. And my buddy Tony Daniel, one of my instructors out here at the school, taught the folks how to make a small basket trap for crayfish. And the great thing about a lot of traps is that they can be sized up or down depending on the type of prey that you intend to catch. And learning how to make a small trap like a crayfish trap lends itself very well to being able to make other types of bigger and larger basket traps for things to include fish and turtles and things of that nature. So we're going to make a small crayfish trap today, and it will get you the idea of how you make this basket weave type trap, and it will also allow you to make bigger traps for bigger prey if that's what you choose to do once you understand the concept. So what we did was we just went out and pulled this honeysuckle vine right out of the trees, and I have a big ton of it here. You can just yank this stuff right out of the trees here in eastern woodlands. It grows rampant. Then I went out and grabbed some greenbrier thorns here that were fresh shoots that were about the same size, and I'm going to use those and cut them down to make my stakes or my uprights, and I'm going to use this honeysuckle for my weaver. So we'll talk about setting that up, and I'll move the camera in and we'll go through it right now. Okay, so we need some kind of a mold for how big we're going to make this trap, and we can eyeball this, but I'm going to use my cup from my cup and bottle set, and I'm just going to set it on the ground here, and then I'm going to cut myself a few stakes. And if you've got something that's thorny like this greenbrier, you can knock those thorns off of it fairly easily just by knocking them sideways, or you can run that thing on some kind of a piece of wood that you've got a notch cut out in that will knock all those thorns off of it. Go ahead and cut those to length, and we're going to take that thing. I want kind of a springy end on this thing, so I'm going to cut it off here and use about this much of it for my stake, which is a piece about a little over 12 inches long, probably 14-15 inches long. And I'm just going to run it right here in this notch on the stump to knock all the thorns off of it. And that should take care of most of them right there. And then I'm going to stick it into the ground a couple, 3 inches so it doesn't move around on me, just like that. And I'm going to alternate them, and I'm going to want an odd number of these stakes. So that could be 7 stakes, it could be 9 stakes, it can be whatever you want it to be, depending on how big you're going to make your trap. I'm going to start off with 7 because I'm making a fairly small trap. But the important thing with this is that we start off with an odd number. And we're just going to kind of alternate them to keep them even. I'm going to go both sides, and then here and here first. Don't be real concerned with these things being exactly the same size in diameter. As long as they're the same length and they're close, you'll be fine. Okay, now once you've kind of went around and eyeballed this and made sure your stakes are fairly even, you can pull that mold out of there. Make sure that your stakes aren't going to move around too much on you in the ground. Make sure they're buried in there pretty good. And then you're going to start separating this honeysuckle to find your good weavers. And you want these long, thin pieces like this are going to be the best for you. And you'll be able to get some really nice long ones out of that. And all you're going to do with this is you're going to begin weaving these. You're going to tuck one side in and then start weaving in and out. Every other one, just like this. And you don't want this weaver to be too long when you first start this process, because then you got a lot of messing around you got to do to pull it in. But keep all of this nice and tight as you go. Pull everything down. And if you've got a good piece of material, it shouldn't be a problem wrapping around these sticks. And if your bark starts to come off of it, don't worry about that. That's not important. You can take the bark off if you want to in that same fashion by scraping it off, if that's what you want to do. and it's not a big deal. Just kind of hold your place as you go. And continue that every other wrap as you go up your stakes, just like this. Now, as you're starting to work toward the top of this thing and the cone is taking shape, it's going to get more fiddly with these rods because they're going to start to get crisscross at each other. And you just kind of have to be patient with it and fish them out of there. And when you get to the end of a weaver, just grab another one and backtrack yourself a couple weaves. I'll show you here in a second. Backtrack yourself a couple of weaves in there and just start running it. Don't get too particular about it. I got a little tail left right here. I got enough room to tuck that one more time right here. And then what I'm going to do is just grab another weaver out of my pile over here. And I'm just going to kind of chase that backwards 3 or 4, just like that, and just tuck it straight down in between one of my stakes here, just like this. Tighten it up good. And go with it just like I never stopped at that point. And the longer these weavers are, the more of a pain they are to kind of try to move them around things, because you're trying to pull an awful lot of this weaving material through one at a time. So just kind of wrap it around as you can and just flip it over the top instead of trying to pull it all through every single time. You can see now I'm getting crossed up right here, and I need to get behind this stake. And that's where things kind of get a little bit tedious for you. And as you get further and further to the top of this cone, that's going to get more and more pronounced, that crisscrossing of your stakes. Don't worry about that. Just keep on rocking it and just be patient with it. Now when I get up in here to work, I'm tired of weaving it. It's already so tight, there's nothing going to get out of it. I'll just go in here with my last weaver and kind of wrap it around a few times. Just keep everything good and tight. And just kind of half hitch that thing off with a couple of half hitches. Just like that, good and tight, until she breaks. And then at that point we can come in here and we can kind of trim some of this back end off that we really don't need now, just like this. I can pull him out of the ground. Be careful with this, because you've been pushing that whole thing and compressing into the ground the whole time you've been building this trap. Cut those ends off just like that. Tuck that beginning end. You can tuck it down inside one of these. You can tuck that beginning right down inside one of those stake holes, just like that. If you got a sharp stick or a bodkin to help you shove that down in there, lock it in, go ahead and do that. Trim everything just a little bit long. Now, you've got a crayfish trap at this point. Okay, all you really need to do at that point is just stick about 4 sharp sticks in there, and they don't have to be razor sharp, just pointed. He'll get in there, but crayfish tend to back out of things a lot of times, and he's not going to be able to get out of it. We've caught in traps like this made of bamboo and things like that down in Florida in our Everglades advanced classes. We've caught lots and lots of crayfish. It may take you 15 or 20 minutes to make this thing, maybe even 30, but it'll catch you a lot of crayfish. And if you make 10 of them, then you got lots and lots of crayfish. The good thing about understanding how to build something like this, though, is, number one, it's basically the same as wattle and daub type material that you'd use on the wall structure of a hut. So you've taught yourself how to do that wattle and daub type weave. Then all you have to do is pack it over with mud and clay, let it dry out. You've also taught yourself a little bit about basket making. You've taught yourself how to make a trap, and now you can size this up or down depending on what you're trying to catch. And if you made this exact same cone and stopped it before it was closed off, before it came all the way down to a point, and cut the runners off of it and tied it off, and then made a bigger basket that cone fit inside of, you now have a fish or a turtle trap that's very usable as well. So this small trap, and that's why I like teaching micro trapping in my primitive trapping concepts classes, because these small traps teach you how to make bigger things. It all builds on itself in a crawl, walk, run mentality. Folks, I'm Dave Canterbury with Self-Reliance Outfitters in the Pathfinder School. I appreciate you joining me for this video today. I thank you for everything you do for our school, for our family, and for our business, for all of our sponsors, instructors, affiliates, and friends, and I'll be back with another video as soon as I can. Thanks, guys.